Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. My name is Leah. This is Homeschool at Heart, and today we're going to talk about a homeschool field trip to Sutter's Fort in Northern California. Alright you guys, so I am continuing on with my series of travel schooling for California history, and this video is about Sutter's Fort. And this is where the drama happens on this trip. So in my last video, I talked about the Marshall Gold Discovery Park. I can never say the name of that place right. And there was a little bit of drama, but we made it work. It was fine. We did learn from it. This particular day, we went to both Sutter's Fort and to the Capitol building, and I'm going to break those into two videos so that it's not like super long. Also, side note, sorry about my voice. I have had a cold for about a week, and I waited as long as I could to record this video, and I still sound like Batman, so could be worse. My daughter has completely lost her voice, so there was a chance that I was not going to be able to make the video at all this week. So at least I got to still record. But you have to listen to me sounding like this. We went to 5 different places on this trip. And this was the only one where we felt like we were second-class citizens, really. The other place, like at the Gold Discovery Park, we did run into, there were some actual in-person schools there, and they did take precedence, but they didn't make us feel like we don't want you here. But at Sutter's Fort, it was a completely different story. We walked in the door, we paid for our tickets, our admission, and then immediately the greeter says, okay, well, there's school kids here, so you can see the park and look in all the windows and stuff, but you can't do any of the activities. You can watch the kids do the activities as long as you maintain a respectful distance. Those are the exact words he said to me. And of course, I get defensive. Because that's the first, he didn't say hi, he didn't say, how are you? This is the thing. I mean, it's not necessarily his fault. This is what he's been told to say. But I said, okay, well, I just paid to come here with my kids on a field trip. I know that you guys, paid for this, they've paid for a field trip with these activities, and that's fine. I say that though. These are big school field trips. They pay for these activities. They're not part of the normal admission. That's all they needed to say. Not stay away from the school kids because they go to school and therefore get special treatment. That's what I felt like he was saying. I'm sure that that is not what he meant to say, but this is where I'm coming from though, because anyway, I have never run into unkind treatment of homeschoolers in my life. Never. Maybe my mom would say something different than me, but in the modern day, lots of kids are homeschooled. So I did run into there was and this is the standard for all of these places. You can go and take your kids there, but they will not count it. The venue will not count it as a official field trip unless you have 10 people going on your trip. So they said, you can have a field trip if you come back with 10 people. To which I replied, I live 400 miles away. I'm not getting 10 people to come with me on this trip. So, anyway, so that was the very first thing that happened when we got there. And it did not get much better from there. So, it was really disappointing because Sutter's Fort is a huge part of California history. So we saw Sutter's Fort appear in so many of the books that we read for our California history school year. So my kids were really excited to go and see this place. This was the most anticipated place that we were going for this particular trip. So we walk in, get this terrible impression of what's going to go on. Meanwhile, there are 2 or 3 schools that are there. So all of the 4th graders for 2 or 3 schools at the same time. They are running around like crazy people. I mean, it was chaos, you guys. I'm not even kidding. I wanted to just turn around and leave. We didn't because I knew my kids wanted to see this place. So we toughed it out. We decided to stay. But there was one video we could watch, and you'll see the room that it's in. I didn't videotape any of the video because of, whatever. They are reinterpreting history. So the video was definitely part of that. There are all these, information posters up. They're all reinterpreting the history, which I get. This was not a glamorous history, but not every single person was evil. So that's all I can say about that. I don't want to get myself into too much trouble. I do believe that John Sutter was not a good man, but it just I just was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know. I feel like I do a lot of research, and I was very unprepared for what I was going to find at this location. And then, anyway, so I'm going to keep going, but it was wild. We could barely hear the video. We heard enough to hear all the people being very angry about history. And then we went in to read all of the posters and whatnot, see all the little artifacts that are in there. And we could barely do that because of how many kids were jammed in there. And there were not enough chaperones for all these kids because these chaperones were manning stations for these activities outside. So the kids were doing nothing wrong, they weren't being ridiculously rude or anything. There was just too many of them. Without adults trying to help them to, go through the exhibits. So they had clipboards, which this was kind of genius, guys. I might do this myself for another trip, but they had clipboards that had questions on there, and they had to find the answer to the question that was being asked. So that was a really cool thing. And I will say, all these charter school and regular school teachers that were there, they were all wonderful. So no complaints about them. I feel like the whole place wasn't run super well. And partially I'm trying not to be mean. So I'm trying not to stir up trouble, but this is what my experience was. So I would probably not choose to go there again, honestly. So let me tell you what the prices and everything are really quickly before I move on to the footage that I took. So, the cost for admission is $5 for adults ages 18 plus. Youth ages 6 to 17 are $3, and children under age 5 are free. So that is a really inexpensive admission for this. The parking situation is really awful. We had to park several blocks away, and it was in Sacramento, and I am really glad my husband was with me because we had to walk by a hospital. There were patients outside that were in altered mental states. It was a little sketchy, guys, a little sketchy. So, just know you're going to have to do metered parking on a street. So be prepared for that. they are not super homeschool friendly, and they don't really care about it. Because I talked to them afterwards, and they're like, yeah, the guy did give me a card for somebody, which I don't, if I could find it, I'll put the information for this lady. But basically, you need to go find the field trip organizer person and talk to them, is what he said. The people at the park are not going to be able to help you with anything. Oh, and Patty Reed's doll is no longer on display. So if you are excited to see Patty Reed's doll like my children were, you will not see her. You will see a photo of her, and you'll see that in the rest of the video. So I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm just going to show you guys what there was to see. We did have a couple of volunteers that were so great. The gunsmith, and then there was a man who talked, and you'll see him at the end of the video, about, he talked about pioneer life, and talked all about, because I have 3 girls, talked all about what a girl's job was for these types of trips and for the pioneer life, and he was so wonderful. He just like had an hour-long conversation with my 3 kids, and I loved him for it. So there were some really good things. We got our money's worth out of it, but I probably wouldn't choose to go again to Sutter's Fort. So it is, you know, like the big part of the trip, but it was a really bad experience, unfortunately. So I'm going to show you guys the footage. You'll hear me talking throughout some of that, and then I'll come back at the end of the video. Okay, so we did Sutter's Fort and the Capitol building in the same day. You only need probably 2 to 3 hours at Sutter's Fort to see it all. There's a lot of looking in windows and walking through rooms to kind of see what life was like at the fort, and that's what we did. There was one video to watch, lots of things to read if your kids have the patience for it. Up these stairs there were some cannons, so you kind of get the idea of what this situation is like. I don't show every single room in these videos, but a good portion of them. Sutter's Fort was kind of a stopping place in the middle of a journey, or towards the end of a journey on the way west. So there's a lot of different types of buildings, well, rooms. It's the same, like, you know, U-shaped building with another big building in the middle. So there's places to sleep. There was a gunsmith, there was a blacksmith, there's a little hospital room inside, kitchen, lots and lots of guns, because it was a fort trying to keep people out as much as they were trying to keep people in. So you get the idea.
How I learned about California, but really he was not very generally nice to the people who had already settled here in California.
Here is the Patty Reed's doll display. We just got to see a picture of it. It's not on display there. The kids were disappointed in that, but it is what it is. They were trying to protect the doll from sun exposure, which I understand.
So this is a sex bed. It says that Fremont's team used it to take measurements to map the Oregon Trail in California.
What do you think those are?
Looks like a writing desk. There's a writing desk with a quill and ink. There's a sword in there. A bunch of...
We had just been at the Marshall Gold Discovery Park the day before, and we saw a blacksmith there, so we went ahead and skipped the blacksmith at this location. But we did see the gunsmith, and that was one of the favorite things that we had seen. He talked to us for a long time and he was wonderful. We asked him tons of questions and he answered them all. He just, I cannot say enough good things about that. One of the things that was asked was, if you lived in this day and age, what kind of gun would you choose? And he said guns were a tool. You choose your gun for your task. And I thought that was pretty cool. I'd never thought about guns like that before.
Kept these 1763 Charleville's in good order for the Native Americans guarding the fort. All the firearms in here you see would be coming through the fort between 1839 and 1850. We have a Colt here. You would have seen that during the gold rush. Got any questions about anything in here, let me know.
Do you know where they were manufactured?
It depends on what gun we had. You know, if you're coming across the country and you had some money, most people had money, and you'd get to like Independence, Missouri or so forth, and you needed firearms, they had sutler's there that would sell you anything you wanted. And so the firearms were readily available. You certainly wanted a rifle. You certainly wanted some type of smoothbore shotgun and pistols. Once you got out there on the plains, you had to figure out what you ate, if you ran out of food and so forth. So it could be any number of makers of guns. Private gun makers, you know, mainly the U.S. government, Springfield, that would be military stuff. But
we got to watch the school kids do a loom project and work in the kitchen. And then I taught them about how yarn is made and how the loom works.
Dental tools or something in there.
What?
Or a doctor.
Yeah, this might have been a hospital, could see them.
We also talked to a volunteer about prairie life and the Donner Party. And my kids got to have a really great conversation with him. He told us about how they used buffalo poop or buffalo chips to cook with, and the girls were super duper grossed out. A family of 4 would have brought 1,200 pounds of food in the covered wagon, and the wagon carried about 2,000 pounds total. They ate a lot of bacon for meat because it lasted a long time without spoiling, and drank coffee because you boiled the water so it didn't make you sick. Plus, he said, you didn't taste the dirt from the river water in the coffee. And one more cool thing was, if you put a container of milk in the wagon in the morning, you would have fresh butter at night from the movement of the wagon. I was hoping I would get to let you hear my aunt talking about this, but she's teaching my kids about making yarn here. One of the teachers graciously let the kids see these wool carding tools, and then they got to watch the kids work on the loom over there. But it was just too loud for me to let you guys hear them talking. But that was a really fun little experience that they got to have.
Or two.
And I saw Larry.
What would your jobs be on the plane, walking across? What would you have to do as girls? No, you guys have jobs to do. You guys have jobs to do. What? Well, that's one of your jobs, but somebody has to count how many times the wheel goes around. But your job as girls is to help your mom. So her job is, first of all, take care of the kids. So if you have, babies or young toddlers, you have to help your mom take care of that. Anybody who's sick, that's your mom's job, so you have to help her. She has to cook, so you have to help your mom cook. You only have 2 dresses for the entire trip, so if it rips, what do you have to do? Sew it back up. You can't go out to Kohl's and buy a new one, so your job is to help sew and keep the clothes. Because some people say by the time you got all the way up to Sutter's Fort, you were dressed in rags.
Okay, so that was our experience at Sutter's Fort. I hope that was informative and helpful for you guys as you're planning your own field trips. Let me know in the comments if you have had a similar experience as homeschoolers. Like I said, I've been homeschooling we're going to be starting our 8th year of homeschool in the fall, and I've never had an experience like this before. was just shocked and appalled by it. So if you have had an experience like that, I would love to know about it and, you know, kind of commiserate with you. So let me know those things in the comments, and I will see you guys in our next video, which will be about our trip to the Capitol building, which was amazing. Okay, you guys, thanks for sticking around all the way to the end. I always appreciate anyone who sticks around and watches the whole video. This is the time of the video, if you are new, that I will just share something about my life, what's going on with us, or a funny story. And in this week's video, we just had the 4th of July yesterday, so I'm going to share some footage of our 4th of July celebration. My husband does a talk every year that is like how in our American independence came to be. It's from Prager University, and I will link I'll link it here in the cards, but I'll also link it below the video that shows a more in-depth look at that talk, because I posted one last year just on that topic. So I'm going to show you guys what we did yesterday, and I'll go ahead and link that other video, so if you guys want to see more about that talk and find the website link to the printable version of it, you guys can go ahead and find that. I'll talk to you guys in my next video.
Remember what the 4th of July is about, and to remind ourselves how fortunate we are as Americans. Before America was a nation, it was a dream shared by many people from many nations over many generations. It began with the Pilgrims in 1620 who fled Europe so they could be free to practice their religion. It continued.
I love these!
4 little ones there.
Let's pick.
Another one? Say color or something.